Hello there, Alex Surgeon, HobbyTown HobbyPlex, and today we're going to do a Alex Fixes. We have a few customer repairs that we need to get caught up on, pretty much from this summer with so much going on. I haven't really had a chance to do one of these in a long time, so I'm going to take a look at all three of them. There's a ECX truck, a boat, a Slash, and a Redcat crawler. We're just going to combine them all into one video. The repair slip doesn't say what's wrong with these at all, which is not supposed to happen, but that just gives me a chance to identify the problem with each car if there is one, and then we'll go from there. So maybe we'll learn something together. So follow along. Let's see how this goes. All right, first things first, we have this ECX Boost, and again, no notes on what's wrong with it. So I've got two batteries from the customer, and they're both probably kind of old. We got our good Profit Sport mini charger that again, this is probably our best selling charger that we have. Very rarely does a charger not work. So what I'm going to do, the radio turns on, right? So what I'm going to do is grab a new battery that I know has some charge in it, and we're just going to plug it in and see what turns on and see what doesn't work or does. We'll make sure that all these are turned up. Steering trim is centered. Throttle trim's in the middle, so that's good. That's got a lead on it we don't need. See what happens. Turns on, so that's good. Steering's reversed. Kids love to do that, so there you go. Now it's right. And throttle's good. So my guess, this one's super easy. My guess is this one is the batteries have been false peaking, and so we'll see if we can get one of the batteries to charge. Basically, I'm just going to have to babysit it and just keep hitting start until it warms up. But yeah, this thing actually works just fine. So that's good news. One down, 3 to go. Okay, so when you have old nickel metal hydride batteries, I say that I tell people when they come in, if they haven't used their car in a long time, and then what happens is they'll put it on the charger and they'll hit the start button, and then they'll walk away, and then they'll come back 45 minutes later when they expect the battery to be done, and of course it'll say that it's done, but it only charged for like 30 seconds. That's because nickel metal hydride batteries are big fat lying liars when they don't get a lot of use. And so what you got to do is essentially babysit your charger. If you can bring nickel metal hydride batteries back to life, but you have to keep just hitting start until you can feel the battery and see that it's warm. So this battery is nice and toasty. I've had to cycle the on-off switch here probably 10 to 12 times. Probably has a good 20 minutes of charge into it for doing that, maybe more than that. But it should now actually turn on this car and make it run. So we'll just double check just to make sure. And get this out of the way. Very rarely is a charger bad. It's almost always the batteries. And now turn this on. That's a good sign. Turns and goes. So what we'll want to do is have this customer basically throw this battery back on the charger just to top it off when they take it, and then go drive it, and basically it'll cycle the battery to when it's all the way dead. And usually if you do that, it'll go back on the charger no problem, usually. So if you have an old battery, again, you'll have to babysit it. You'll have to make sure that it actually does take a charge. You'll know that it's done when the battery's nice and warm. That means it actually took a charge. and then go drive it, and then usually it'll go right back on the charger. So I would call this one done. There really wasn't much wrong with it. I am going to get them battery strap. We still have those, so so they don't lose that, because I don't see it anywhere in their parts. Let's move on. We got a boat to look at. All right, so here we have a Traxxas Blast. Again, nothing was actually written on the sheet, so we don't really know what's wrong with it. I did pre-check the battery that they gave me, and even though it's a little poofy, it actually has a full charge in it, so we should be able to turn this thing on and see what we get. So we're green there. Without shoving that thing all the way in, we'll plug it on, turn it on. So I'm not getting any light from the speed controller. It does turn, even though it sounds terrible. And I got, oh, look at that. Okay. Well, that's good news. The steering's the right direction. I was afraid it was off again. The trim's a little weird. I'm going to see if I can get rid of that noise. A lot of times with these boats, what happens is water, even though it's not supposed to, gets in there, and even though these are waterproof, there's still like bearings and bushings that if they get wet, they can go bad. You see that a lot with like brushless motors, even though they're waterproof technically. If the bearings get wet, a lot of times I see those things seize up, and that's how a lot of our ready to run stuff goes bad. But full disclosure, I actually looked at this before I turned the video on, and it didn't do that, and now it does. So at least I got lights. Let's turn it off and just see if we can duplicate that working. Oh, stop that. Oh, yeah, okay. Weird. Let's see if we can get rid of that stupid servo noise. Pop that off and see. See, that feels fine. So it's probably just a servo. See if we can get this out of there without, there we go. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to open this up, and I'm going to lube up the bushing that's inside of this servo, and hopefully that'll quiet it down, maybe even make it run a little smoother. See, this has these little O-rings. Don't lose those. See if you can. There, see it? Don't lose that. Okay. We don't want the bottom to come out, we just want the case to come up. There you go. So, lots of grease in there, so it's probably fine, but just for the fun of it, we're going to see, I see plenty of grease, so I don't really, maybe it's not that, but why it's so loud. There is a bearing. Is that a bearing? No, that's a bushing. Okay. There's another O-ring. That's, again, that helps keep it relatively waterproof. Okay, now what we're going to do is make sure that it's centered. So all servos, most servos, have this little little stop on it, and the cases have their own little 2 stops, so they got one on each side, right? And so you definitely don't want to put this in there like that. You want it to be like that. Usually you turn this on, but I've already done that, and so that'll get pressed down right there. And then this guy goes like that. There's your case with your pin, and then the top part of it. There you go. And what we'll do is we'll just tighten down our screws a little bit. Let's see what it sounds like. Still sounds bad. My guess is it's probably the motor that's inside of there, the tiny little motor. So we're pretty much not going to worry about it from this point on, but you definitely want to make sure that when you put your gears back in there, it's almost best to just take those 2 gears out, turn everything on, you know, plug in your battery, turn your radio on, turn the car on, let the servo center itself, kind of like you would, you know, we're going to recenter this too, so make sure that it's spot on in the middle before we tighten her down. But at least then you know that it'll be free, because it is kind of easy to put the gears back in there like off by like 1 tooth and cause it to bind up. If you don't put that stop in the right way, it can cause it to not turn at all. So there's all sorts of stuff that can happen. So, all right. Turn everything back on. That sounds so horrible. Okay. We're going to make sure that's straight up and down. We're going to turn our rudder so that it's straight. And then we're going to there we go. And then that can be adjusted. Boats do have a little bit of like torque steer, kind of. Okay, well, we did our best. It sounds horrible, but it does work. We got throttle, and I'm pretty sure now that I think about it, this speed controller, you actually have to hit the brake. It's almost like a safety thing. Like you have to hit the brake in order to actually turn it on to go. So I'm curious if I'm right about that. Let's find out. Oh, maybe not. All right, the boat works. Yeah, I think this one just honestly, before I did the video, the batteries were dead in here. I think this one just needed new radio batteries, really, for the most part. But we did recenter the rudder and made sure to everything turned on and worked like it should. So that was another relatively easy one. Let's move on. Okay, here we go. We've got a Redcat Everest 10, and I don't know. Again, nothing's written on the sheet, so we got to figure out what's wrong with it. So I've got myself a LiPo battery that I know is charged, and or at least has a charge in it. So we're gonna plug this thing in and see what happens. Well, that's good. Turns. It crawls. Yeah, I don't know. You know, this might be a case of somebody bringing in a bunch of cars to us that they haven't ran in a while and just saying, here, get these things ready to run again and see if they need anything. Because right now, I mean, most of these haven't actually required any real fixing, I guess. So I don't like the wires at all, so I'm gonna grab some zip ties and kind of clean up the wires so that none of this ever gets caught in that spur gear. But I'm gonna look this thing over and see if there's anything obvious sticks out to me other than the electronics. This truck's extremely simple. Actually, one of the better values for a crawler, I think, is the Everest 10. It's a very basic plate design truck, but you don't really see these break that often. And they got these big giant 2.2 wheels and tires on them. I don't see any broken pieces, and we've already driven it off the table, so I think I might take this one outside later just to try it and make sure to try it. But I'm going to clean this wiring up, so. That's the motor. That'll go over there. Yeah, I think we're good. I like it. Okay, one last vehicle, a Slash 4x4. Let's see what's wrong with it, if anything. Okay, last one, Slash 4x4. I kind of gave it a quick look-see, expecting to maybe see like a drive shaft or something. I don't see anything like that, so we're gonna flip her on and have a little weird. Oh, look at that. Interesting. Let's see if we can figure out why it's doing that. All right, first thing we need to do to see what's causing that little brownout that we're getting. Put a brand new battery in. And again, I know that this has, you know, at least a storage charge. So we're gonna turn this on and see if it keeps doing that. It is, look at that. Okay. So usually the servo is actually causing that. So we're going to check that next. All right, so we're gonna pop open the receiver box, plug in a different servo, and just see what happens. So all right, I'm pretty sure that the old servo was the source of the brownout issue on this Slash 4x4, so we're just gonna double check everything's on. You can see we're doing the same thing we were doing last time. I actually think it even has more power. So I think that servo was, pretty sure that servo is the culprit. So there you go. We found something wrong out of the 4 cars. The last one was the ticket. So yeah, I think we're good. We might go drive this, and then we'll we'll call it good. So